We're going to begin, though, with this. We've got newly revealed evidence in the murder of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. Police say they are learning what his accused killer, that would be Luigi Mangione, knew before the day of the attack and what he allegedly did right after that terrible shooting. Lilia Luciano is following this story and has the latest.
Investigators say they have discovered evidence suggesting Luigi Mangione knew United Healthcare was hosting its annual investor conference in New York City before the shooting. The NYPD tells CBS News there is no indication that Mangione was ever a client of United Healthcare. Officials believe the company may have been targeted due to its status as the largest health insurer in the United States. Meanwhile, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has begun presenting evidence to a grand jury as they try to extradite.
Yeah, this was really funny because people were like, it doesn't mean that like United Healthcare, he wasn't even a UHC client. And it's like, okay, sure. Would that have made it, would you be defending it if he was? Like, I don't understand. It's all these people that are like desperately trying to grab on to anything to be like, no, this guy is silly. This guy is stupid. This guy is wrong. This guy's insane. And you shouldn't feel like, you should feel angry that he did this. Okay? You should feel angry that he did this. You should feel resentful towards him and his actions and not, the way that United Healthcare and many other for-profit healthcare industry leaders have destroyed your lives. Okay? Forget about that, please. And I think that like a lot of people are just trying to like finger wag. A lot of people in the media are trying to finger wag their way into like trying to reshape the public narrative. And I don't know if it's working or not. I'm sure it has some play for a lot of older people that get their notes from mainstream publications, or maybe some dumbasses who get their notes from like right-wing content creators in general. But having said that, you can't finger wag your way out of this. Like, people are very mad. Understandably, they're very mad.
Mangione from Pennsylvania to New York. The delay, a possible strategic move by his defense team.
Not waiving the extradition does buy them a little extra time. They now have to wait for Governor Hochul to issue that warrant, and it just gives them more time to prepare their defense.
All this while Mangione remains detained more than 200 miles away. Luigi Mangione is being held in this state prison in Huntington, Pennsylvania, under maximum security. Prison officials tell CBS News that he is in a cell by himself, but not in solitary confinement, that he does not get to interact with other inmates, and that he has not become violent. Also, the NYPD tells CBS News that during his time in detention here in Pennsylvania, he has not made any incriminating statements to investigators. After biking through Central Park and taking a cab to the George Washington Bridge bus terminal, authorities say Mangione didn't leave the city, but actually returned via subway down to Penn Station in Midtown Manhattan, just a mile away from the crime scene. Now investigators are looking into whether then he traveled by train to Pennsylvania.
New York.
I don't know why people are saying this is a new surveillance tech that they figured out to create a parallel narrative as to how they found him. Like, I'm inclined to believe the mainstream narrative on this. Like, I'm inclined to believe that, like, no, there was definitely like an old lady at McDonald's who was like, I think that's the killer. They do have mass surveillance. It's in every part of our lives. But having said that, you can see that it takes time for them to actively monitor a city with like 14 million people in it, or however many million people live in New York City. What is this, 7 or 14? Am I getting the number wrong? It's 8.2. Sorry, not 14. It's 8.2 million people in New York City at any given moment in Manhattan. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for investigators to, even with all of the mass amount of surveillance that exists, it's going to be difficult for people to figure out one singular individual wearing a mask and where they go. So I don't know. I don't know if this is like a person being, I don't know if this is like your McDonald's self-checkout kiosk spying on you or whatever. Hasan is running D for the NYPD. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I don't know how true, but allegedly the CEO of Peak Designs ratted Luigi out to the police by looking up the serial number in the backpack they found. I can see that. They are creating a parallel narrative for the NYPD data. You have not seen the tools NYPD Fusion has, however, not for the arrest. I think a lot of people overestimate the power that like artificial intelligence has, or maybe they overestimate the power that human beings have. Mass surveillance is here, and it has been here for quite some time. We exist under a surveillance state, but the surveillance state is still operated by human beings, and human beings are not machines. They're not robots. They're not going to be able to like immediately map out the trajectory of a shooter in a city with so many goddamn people in it. Now, not only that, but also artificial intelligence sucks dick, especially when it comes to, especially in instances where you need it to be correct. Okay, artificial intelligence as it works currently, okay, or AI or machine learning or whatever you want to call it, as it works currently, is only good at being the plausible deniability machine. Okay, it's only good if it's not supposed to work. It's only good for Lavender AI's targeting capabilities. It's only good so you can just say, oh, we handed it off to a machine, and if the machine f***ed up, then oops, it is what it is. It's only good if it works. It's only good if it's supposed to be bad, if that makes sense. Just like United Healthcare that utilized AI to process more denials over claims, like valid claims, at a significantly higher rate than human beings would. You're an expert? No. I don't think you guys understand. Like the current, everybody wants to feel like these super powerful machines are just, they're better than human beings at like tracking, and they're more accurate, not realizing that the data input into it is oftentimes inaccurate, and that causes super basic hallucinations in like even something like ChatGPT. Like AI is amazing, but it's not as amazing as you think it is my point. That's it. And it will continue to get better unless it keeps working off of other garbage AI, and they don't figure out a way to clean it of its imperfections. But yeah, I think human beings are still on top in this moment, for better or for worse. We are in a surveillance state. We are not in a Minority Report future. Exactly. That's it. Like the level of access that people have once they identify someone is expansive, it's vast, it's unimaginable to the normal human's mind. Okay? That much I agree with. But in instances where you're scouring through like terabytes and terabytes of data, and you have to pinpoint one person with accuracy, AI is not good enough to be able to do that correctly. At least for now. Especially if I think especially for now, like the failure rating. Bro, I agree with every single one of your takes except AI. You don't understand that it's exponentially growing and will supersede human intelligence most likely by 2029. I'm simply talking about where it's at currently, chatters. That's it. I think people think that like AI facial surveillance recognition technology is like so much better than the way people think it is. At least as it stands. At least for now. LLM, ChatGPT, etc. are inherently flawed and will never be able to reason. They can only imitate reasoning relatively convincingly. We will need a new model before we see anything like sci-fi level AI, genuine artificial intelligence, as opposed to a very good chatbot. I think big corps using AI to comb through thousands of resumes to hire people is akin to getting precogged. Getting my master's in data science and data policy, and you're not far off. Do you really think the US government isn't working on mass AI surveillance tech? You are unk-maxing. Did I say that? Did I say that the United States government is not working on this technology? Did I say that AI is not already here in terms of surveillance technology? How many times have I talked about this asshole? What do you think he does? What do you think his like signature achievement is? What do you think Palantir does? They're working on it for sure. I never said they're not working on it. I'm simply stating that as it stands currently, it is nowhere near as good as you think it is. It's not capable, in my opinion, of scouring through like terabytes and terabytes of visual and audio data to accurately pinpoint in real time where a certain person is in the city. You still have to do old school investigative reporting, or you still have to do that classic like $50,000 reward for a human being that recognizes the shooter, please. Way out of your depth here, dog. Okay. And I'm not even saying that it's not going to get there. It will. And it's certainly faster at processing shit than human beings can. But I think that people who think that this is like Minority Report style, like boop, 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 they immediately tracked the shooter, they found him instantly, and they actually mapped out his movements, and now they're like secretly trying to hide that they have this capability by crafting a parallel narrative. I think that's not correct. You definitely aren't out of your depth. You're basically reflecting exactly what top scientists studying AI are saying. Yeah. Now, make no mistake, every day is the worst that AI ever will be. Okay? Today is the worst that AI will be. That is the case. It's only going to get better, and it's going to exponentially get better. I think that is the case for sure. You literally have to be listening to AI salesmen to think it's there already. But there are still issues. As far as I understand, there's issues with the data being processed. I've always maintained this position. And I think people that work with AI hype it up quite a bit for their own personal financial interests. Like they make it seem as though it's already there, it's done, is it going to kill the world? Like what's happening? When in fact, like, no, AI is used as currently to basically cast aside certain subsects of the labor force. That's it. That is the primary purpose of it. And if it's like output, it doesn't even matter, because these guys only care about their bottom line. It works only if it's not 100% accurate, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't work when it requires 100% accuracy. Pinpointing a person, pinpointing a needle in a fucking haystack requires basically 100% accuracy, and the AI is not there yet. That's it. But if it's something like, an advanced chatbot, or if it's something like, if it's something that basically can be wrong, and the goal is for it to be wrong anyway, like the AI processing denials at a much faster clip than like human beings, then yeah, AI is great for that. That's what it works for. Anyway, let's continue.
Governor Kathy Hochul has said she expects to see an ironclad indictment soon and is adamant that Mangione, quote, return to face the consequences. Meanwhile, this morning, there's a new op-ed in the New York Times from the CEO of United Health Group, the parent company of United Healthcare, titled, "The Healthcare System is Flawed, Let's Fix It." In it, he calls Brian Thompson a brilliant, kind man who is working to make healthcare better for everyone. He acknowledged the flaws in the healthcare system, but condemned the vitriol and threats against healthcare employees, saying, quote, while the healthcare system is not perfect, every corner of it is filled with people who try to do their best for those they serve.
I mean, one of the issues with the healthcare system is that the flaw may be at the very core of it. How can you have a profit-motivated system on top of something as necessary as people's healthcare?
And that's part of the op-ed, that he says no one person or no one designed this one system. It's a patchwork.
Yeah.
And so now it's time to fix it, while not, of course.
Yeah, it's fundamentally broken because profit should not exist. That's it. You cannot have inelastic demand and have profit at the same time. You can't be, you cannot have the profit motive in a sector that has inelastic demand. And by the way, this is not just for healthcare. This is also for housing as well, just so you understand. This is my attitude. I have to make this very clear. That's it. So the notion that it's like, oh, it's imperfect, but we're trying our very best is silly. Okay? That's dumb, not you. Sure, the system is broken, but if you want to be the CEO, you have to be willing to represent the corporation in every way. No, they do, and they get paid for it. They get paid to represent the corporation in every way. They get paid for those inhumane decisions that they sign off on. So no, I think it's ridiculous when people go, oh, what the f***? This is just a normal human being, just like you, just like me. Like, I have a lot of charity for the average person who's just simply trying to exist. I have a lot of charity for the average person that's working in this corporation, because like everyone is working in a ultimately given the way that capitalism works, every single person is contributing to this death machine. I work technically under an Amazon subsidiary. Okay. That's it. I am a contracted 1099 employee of one of the most brutal killing machines out there, Amazon. Okay. When virtually every single person is working for the brutal killing machine, then yeah, technically no one is. Okay. Having said that, however, and I have to repeat this position. Like, I don't think adventurism is the solution here. Okay. I don't think that like a direct violence against CEOs is going to solve this problem. I don't think so at all. But I think it's important to examine where this frustration is coming from. What leads someone to take this act? Okay. The reason why I cover the story in the way that I do is because this act of adventurism, given how heightened the contradictions are, has created this gap, this messaging gap between what the media is saying, what people in positions of power are saying, and how the average person feels about it. Okay? So it can be a spark that develops, at least to a certain degree, some semblance of class consciousness in the minds of a lot of Americans. Okay? And even if it doesn't, they still have been able to recognize who the real victims are in this situation, who the real pain dealers are in this situation. It's not, you get paid blood money. I guarantee these dorks are the same dorks that want to invade Mexico to stop cartels. You got your own vultures feasting on Americans. You just legalized it. Yeah. People are saying this young guy's a trust fund baby and the CEO came from a working class family. Yes, because they're trying to desperately reshape the narrative. Okay. They're trying to desperately reshape the narrative in very meaningful ways. And I think they're still failing because you cannot get a person you cannot logic your way out of real human suffering. Okay. You cannot get a normal person, a Deborah or a Barbara or a Hank, living in middle America that has been over by a giant for-profit healthcare company to go, oh, let's be reasonable about this. Like, they just don't care. At most, this is a moment for them to feel, some semblance of, oh, you got what was coming for you. You can't finger wag and try to reason with them. Okay. You can't just be like, oh, you feel good about this? Well, you're a bad guy. When most of us don't pay for insurance because it's too expensive, it should be clear which side we're on. Dog, how can you honestly say that violence is not effective when we've seen more progress in the past week than we have since the Affordable Care Act? It's like how you say Israel has shown it only responds to violence. They've literally shown that, dude, I don't think you understand this, okay? Appalachian Soviet. First and foremost, okay? This act of violence may have, this act of violence in a vacuum would be completely meaningless, okay? It's actually the public response to this act of violence that, in my opinion, has created a lot of fear, at the very least in C-suite executives, all in a variety of different sectors, okay? Do you get it? I'm not saying that it has not been impactful. I'm simply stating that you have to recognize where that impact is. Because if this had happened and every Tom, Dick, and Harry, every Barbara, Deborah, and Hank turned around and was like, this is gross violence, how dare you? There is no place for vigilantism in American society. This is a wonderful CEO. And that could have very well been the case because of the American predisposition towards crime and punishment. Americans are very one note on this. They go, crime, I see crime, death penalty. This is a very draconian culture. You must understand. I still was very shocked to see the groundswell of support for Luigi Mangione, even before they knew who he was, even before they knew what he looked like. They saw a guy in broad daylight dome a healthcare CEO, and everyone was like, I know exactly what happened there. They didn't know a single damn thing. They had no information whatsoever. And they immediately were like, I know what happened. How could people be so united? How could people understand exactly what was going on without any of the details whatsoever? It's because American healthcare is so expansive, so ruthless, so brutal. For-profit healthcare in general is so awful that it has caused a universal suffering It has universalized the pain. Every American knows at least one person or has at least in some way, shape, or form experienced this pain. Whether it is a massive check that they have to pay in the aftermath of one of their most vulnerable moments, or something far worse than that, like an immediate family member dying. That's it. That is the reason why so many people, without knowing a single damn thing, recognize what the fuck is going on here. I'm gonna show you something, okay? There was a TikTok that I saw of me from a couple days prior, okay, when I was in England.
This morning, a frantic manhunt for the man authorities spotted on this survey.
So this dude, big homie over here, okay, Mr. CEO, walking up to his hotel. Oh, this one got like 1 million views. Having a dude, but this isn't the one. Hold on. Policing. Let's talk about this. Claim denial rates by insurance companies. Look, this is crazy. Look, United Health Group. We are deeply saddened and shocked at the passing of our dear friend and colleague, Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Brian was a highly respected colleague and friend to all who work with him. We are working closely with the New York Police Department and ask for your patience and understanding during this difficult time. Our hearts go out to Brian's family and all who were close to him. 41,000 ha-has. Remember, this is happening. I'm covering this in real time as it had just happened. Only 2.2 thousand kind of sad crying faces. 42,000 ha-has. I'm sorry. Prior authorization is required for thoughts and prayers. 15,000 likes. Sending prior authorization, denied claims, collections, and prayers to his family. 16,000 likes. Was his trip to the ER really emergent? According to his own company, my husband's heart attack wasn't an emergency, and we were out $3,000, full deductible, 5,000 likes. It's crazy what my first thought was, and then I look at the comments and realize I'm not alone in my thoughts. 1,000 likes. I just can't find the care. Maybe if they ask for pre-approval of my care, then after they care. Like, this is just, wait, hold on. Let me see if I can find the other video. I guess I didn't like it, but I saw it. There was something that I saw where I was like talking about it from that same clip where I'm talking about like if they find him, once this person is found, okay, if he's also attractive and he has this like profound message, this is going to be devastating for a lot of CEOs. I said something along those lines, and I can't remember where that video is, but that was before we knew what the dude looked like. That was before we knew what his like actual motive was. We still don't fully know what his actual motive is, and look where we're at now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's from my coverage. It's not, and this isn't for the self-glaze. The reason why I'm bringing this up, the reason why I brought it up is not to be like, look how far ahead of the future I can see or whatever. The reason why I'm saying that is because like, I'm not a particularly intelligent person. I don't have the gift of foresight. Okay. I simply understood at that moment what everybody else understood, which is that this was a universal experience that people had. And even if they didn't know what he looked like, or even if they didn't know who this person was, they immediately were like, I have been there. I have felt that anger and that frustration. And you cannot write that out. You cannot turn around and simply finger wag away the way people feel. You know? Exactly. It doesn't take a weatherman to look outside and see the weather. Huh? 2,5. Yo, 2,5'dan yaparsan yerim. 3 gibi işte. Oh, you found it here.
Overnight, the shooter seen here about 20 minutes before the shooting.
They're looking for a male about 5 feet.
Oh, this is the one,
height,
yeah.
Cream color.
Yo, by the way, like, don't get mad at me. I don't want to be like inappropriate here, but he looks kind of hot, dude. I cannot be the only person who immediately went, wow, clearly this guy has interesting style and also is kind of attractive, which is part of the reason why I thought if they catch him and he gets his message out and he's hot, it's going to be a far more consequential problem they should let him go. Honestly, I'm not even joking when I say this. They should let him go, because if they catch him and they arrest him and then he gets to talk and says, this is why I did it, it's going to be a Shinzo Abe situation. It already has become a Shinzo Abe situation. And that's actually the truly interesting part about this story. Now, yep, pre-watch. That is from December 5th. Okay? December 5th, 2024. This is before they saw all the other photos. This is before his face reveal happened. That was as it was happening. Yeah, no, this is before the face reveal. For those of you who don't understand the Shinzo Abe comparison, okay, Shinzo Abe was assassinated. And once Japanese society understood what the motivations of the assassin were, they were like, oh, we agree with him. It was a real propaganda of the deed moment. This is even worse than that Shinzo Abe situation, specifically because it's even worse than the Shinzo Abe situation, because maybe a lot of Japanese people didn't realize that there was this Korean cult that had placed its tentacles in Japanese society, but they found out afterwards. And when they did, they were like, I don't like this. But virtually every single American has been over by healthcare. Okay? In this circumstance, you didn't even need to know his motivations to recognize what it is. Because people have a direct experience with this. They have a direct experience being wronged. And it's more consequential than being wronged, like that Ben Shapiro commentator said, being wronged by your barista, your order. When you're wronged by your for-profit healthcare company, you're wronged in a really meaningful way. In the best possible outcome, you're still tasked with paying a massive medical bill. In the worst possible outcome, you have an immediate family member who dies. Okay? So all of these guys that turn around and try to tell people like you shouldn't feel some type of way about this, you're not going to be able to write articles that convince enough people, I think. The way people see it, maybe not directly, but indirectly. Yeah, here's what happened, by the way. Japan's government asked the court to revoke the legal status of the Unification Church. So, like, they literally fulfilled the desires of the assassin in Japan. Anyway, so I want to cover the guest essay from New York Times editorial board. United Health Group CEO, the healthcare system is flawed. Let's fix it. It's by Andrew Whitty, who is the chief executive officer of the United Health Group, the parent company of United Healthcare. This is the CEO on top of the CEO, the big dog, just so you understand. And he wrote this article, and the article had 2.5 thousand quotes, comments, and they had to close the comment section because they didn't like what the New York Times readers were commenting. This person is the top dog, the person who wrote this article. Let's take a look at what he said. They had to turn off the comments in this article. As Brian Thompson's family, friends, and colleagues mourn his killing, we are bearing a grief and sadness we will carry for the rest of our lives. Grief for the family he leaves behind, and grief for a brilliant, kind man who was working to make healthcare better for everyone. Absolutely no one believes this. We greatly appreciate the enormous outpouring of support for Brian, who ran our health insurance business, United Healthcare, as well as our wider company, which I lead. Yet we are also struggling to make sense of this unconscionable act and the vitriol that has been directed at our colleagues who have been barraged by threats. No employees, be they the people who answer customer calls or nurses who visit patients in their homes, should have to fear for their and their loved ones' safety. It's gross that the CEO is once again using regular working class people who also are ironically getting over by their own healthcare companies while they're working for the healthcare company as a way to try and soften the blow. It's not the nurses, and it should never be the nurses, and it shouldn't be the customer service representatives either. This anger is directed towards the CEOs and the people who play a role. You're using them as human shields here. You're hiding behind them. We know that the health system does not work as well as it should, and we understand people's frustrations with it. I want to look up how much United Healthcare has spent on lobbying. Just real quick. lobbying expenditure. I wonder if this is like something easy to find. United Healthcare has spent $5.8 million on total lobbying expenditures in 2024. Well. So we do know why the health system does not work as well as it should. And we understand people's frustrations with it. That rings a little hollow when you think about this. This is the direct money that United Healthcare alone has spent on lobbying alone. These are direct funds. This does not factor in the conferences, the wheeling and dealing. Okay? This does not factor in other healthcare, for-profit healthcare groups that also play a significant role. This does not factor in industry-specific lobbying groups. This is just United Healthcare just for 2024, this past election cycle. Please understand, the number across the board, industry-wide, is significantly higher. Okay? Let's take a look at healthcare lobbying in general. When you look at the sector profile for health, it goes up to $562,332,190. 48% of the number of lobbyists are former government employees as well. Once again, this still does not factor in. This still does not factor in. This $500 million does not factor in all of the issues. Okay? This does not factor in how much money they're spending on top of this. This doesn't factor in the ad spend. This, which plays a pretty significant role in why media figures are so defensive of healthcare profits. You spend hundreds of millions of dollars across the board industry-wide on ad spend on mainstream networks, and then those mainstream networks play ball for you. Okay? And the best part about this is all of this also plays a role in why healthcare sector profit margins are only 6%, because this is expenditure before profits. United Healthcare alone works with almost $500 billion in revenue. $500 billion in revenue generated. All of this, not this isn't entirely United Healthcare. This is just pure lobbying alone. All of that is going into their expenses. And even then, they still come out on top with $33 billion in pure profit. Okay? Just understand. So when a healthcare CEO that sits on top of United Care Group turns around and says, we know the health system does not work as well as it should, and we understand people's frustrations with it. It's like, no, dog, you spend to directly lobby Congress to make sure it's busted. And then on top of that, you still spend to normalize the cruelty and the pain people experience. You designed the problems. So make no mistake. It's when they say, oh, dude, this is ridiculous. In 2023, the ad spending on United Healthcare SVCs in the United States was the highest on television media, reaching a value of $174.91 million US dollars. No one would design a system like the one we have, and no one did. It's a patchwork built over decades. Our mission is to help make it work better. No, it's not. We are willing to partner with anyone, as we always have, healthcare providers, employers, patients, pharmaceutical companies, governments, and others, to find ways to deliver high-quality care and lower costs. Clearly, we are not there yet. We understand and share the desire to build a healthcare system that works better for everyone. That is the purpose of our organization. Healthcare is both intensely personal and very complicated, and the reasons behind coverage decisions are not well understood. We share some of the responsibility for that. Yeah, dude. It's the lack of transparency. Yeah, no. You don't understand. There are good reasons for why we deny coverage. You're using too much healthcare, which, by the way, we're not even providing. Nurses, doctors, hospitals are providing the care. We simply are the middleman that makes money off of making the process more costly. And the way we make money by denying you the actual coverage that you paid for. That is the purpose. This is a parasitic force. They are leeches. Just so you understand, their entire profit comes from getting your money in the form of premiums, okay, and creating this unnecessarily complex middleman, only to then turn around and not pay for the full coverage. Their whole reason for existence is profit. And as a reason for existence, the way that they generate that profit is by getting money from you and then doing everything in their power to not pay the entire medical bill. That's how they make money, just so you understand. Together with employers, governments, and others who pay for care, we need to improve how we explain what insurance covers and how decisions are made. Behind each decision lies a comprehensive and continually updated body of clinical evidence focused on achieving the best health outcomes and ensuring patient safety. Yeah, that's why whenever there's no insurance industry, no for-profit insurance that plays this like incredibly expensive middle manager role, specifically for the purpose of, generating profits for some of the wealthiest people in society, everybody dies. Famously, in all other comparable OECD nations, people are just dying left and right. They have no safety for their patients. Why? Because the insurance sector doesn't exist or is not as robust as it is in the United States of America. Except, no, that's not the case. But they will never tell you that. Americans are purposely shut off from recognizing that there are countries, both to the north of us and to the south of us, that have actually figured out this unimaginably complex situation that we simply can't figure out. And there are even far better systems as well. There are examples of wealthier countries, or at least like not as wealthy as America because we are the wealthiest nation on earth, but there are examples of countries that have far less than us, and yet they have been able to figure out a nationalized structure. How does that work? How does that exist? It's because in all of those other countries, no matter how tyrannical they might be in other circumstances, like Turkey even, there is still a responsibility for governance. There is an interest in welfare, the welfare of the citizenry. That's it. It's not magic. It's because somewhere along the line, somewhere throughout this history, leaders were like, yeah, we still need to, we need to make sure that we have a healthy society. In America, this does not exist because what matters most is not the overall welfare of the citizenry. What matters most is profit. What matters most is corporations and their welfare. We put profit over people every step of the way. While the health system is not perfect, every corner is filled with people who try to do their best for who they serve. Brian was one of those people. He was raised in the same Iowa farmhouse as his mom. His dad spent more than 40 years unloading trucks at grain elevators. BT, as we knew him, worked farm jobs as a kid and fished at a gravel pit with his brother. He never forgot where he came from because it was the needs of people who live in places like Jewell, Iowa, that he considered first in finding ways to improve care. I'm going to be really real with you. If I were to go to Jewell, Iowa, a town of 1,200 people, I could probably find 300 people that got over dramatically by their for-profit healthcare. Maybe not by United Healthcare specifically, but that's so funny to be like, this is where he comes from, this tiny town. Okay? I'm willing to bet if you went to that tiny town and you found randomly, okay, the population is 1,183. If you went to that random town and asked 100 people, you would find 90 people that got over, or at least knows a person in their immediate family that got over by for-profit insurance. Okay? It does not matter. When a colleague proposed a new idea to Brian, he would always ask, would you want this for your own family? If not, end of discussion. Brian was never content with the status quo. That's why he pushed us to build dedicated teams to help the sickest people navigate the health system. It's why he fought for preventative health and quality health outcomes rather than simply adding ever more tests and procedures. He believed decisions about healthcare should start with the individual and champion plans in which consumers could see costs and coverage options up front so they could decide what's best for themselves and their families. The ideas he advocated were aimed at making healthcare more affordable, more transparent, more intuitive, more compassionate, and more human. That's Brian's legacy, one that we will carry forward by continuing our work to make the health system work better for everyone. The amount of profits that Brian brought in must have been great enough for this guy to put his name on this article. Holy shit. Here are some of the comments from 4 hours ago. There's a watchword for the way people justify bad acts nowadays. Allied. Mr. Whitty elides many key facts in this somewhat sanctimonious essay about his colleague's death. The fact that no insurance executive has a primary obligation to any patient. The fact that no for-profit insurance company is incentivized by their policyholders' successful therapy. The fact that his company is notorious among healthcare providers for employing any and all means to obfuscate, distract, confuse, delay, and otherwise obstruct paying our benefits. Mr. Thompson's death was indeed tragic, but Mr. Whitty has offered no substantive plans to address the widespread outrage at the way his company conducts business. Mr. Whitty, the money talks, which is why you will not walk nor run to change a system that lines your pockets at the expense of your paying customers. As an outpatient MD, I can tell you that I know why United was the most profitable of all healthcare companies, because it denied the most. United made me get authorization for cheap medications like ACE inhibitors and tests like ultrasounds. No other major insurer did that. United had some plans that were good, that would cover tests that were not necessary, and their crappier plans would not cover more important tests. This is a self-serving essay that does nothing to address the real issues of healthcare. This is not YouTube commenters. Make no mistake. YouTube commenters are very right-wing in general. We know this. We see it. We see it every day. We look at comments on YouTube on any number of different content creators. And they're almost always the dumbest shit you've ever seen. And yet, people seemingly are united on this. Perhaps it is not because they are card-carrying members of the International League of Communists, but because they are regular-ass people that know what it looks like when a family member dies, that know how it feels when their insurance claims are denied, even though they paid for it. That's it. These are the people that pay for the New York Times. These are the people that are most susceptible to this kind of propaganda. And yet, it is not working on them. These are people who, on average, have higher income than the steel mill worker that's living in the middle of America. And yet, even they are cognizant of where the pain actually resides. If your fucking target audience is not believing this, you can't finger wag your way out of this. These are the people that are most susceptible to the finger wagging. And even they're like, nah, dog, this is. These are the people who care about civility. Make no mistake. These are the people who care most about civility. If you were to look at a profile of a New York Times reader who takes the time out to comment on a New York Times op-ed, you have to understand these are the finger waggers themselves in many instances, the professional managerial class, the people that are in, the people that have been recipients of some semblance of upward social mobility that is seen as impossible for many Americans. And even they are like, nope, not believing this you're putting out there. This is a self-serving essay that does nothing to address the real issues of healthcare in this nation and seeks to justify the financial waste incurred by health insurance companies while their goals are bottom line profits for the shareholders. Like, you can tell these people love capitalism. You can tell these people have benefited from capitalism. You could tell that these people want to defend capitalism. Even in the way that they criticize it, they say, we are not even against for-profit insurance. Not every single person here that is chiming in is saying for-profit healthcare must not exist. But even they recognize, and they're wrong for the record, for-profit healthcare should not exist. It's ridiculous. But even they recognize that, like, it has gotten out of hand. Okay? My sister died because of insurance. She battled cancer for a year and they wouldn't cover this scan. A year later, they scanned her in the ER for 4 brain tumors and it was far too late. So many people have a story like Leonora. So many people. I'm sorry for your loss. You can't finger wag your way out of that. Okay? You just can't. It's crazy. Anecdotal, but my dad is the most MSNBC Nikki Haley lib, and even he kind of shrugged at the assassination and talked about how evil United Health was as a company. I spent decades dealing with insurance providers trying to get authorization for patients' procedures, payment for services rendered, and explaining why their denials were bogus. The answer to our healthcare ills does not lie in the continued propping up of a system that does not provide quality and is inefficient. We spent too much for too little, and companies like United are part of the problem, not the solution. I've recently read the book, The 10-Year War by Andrew Cohn. Everyone who wants a first-hand look at healthcare reform in this country needs to read this and realize how slow and tedious reform in this field is and why we are so slow to act. We live in the wealthiest nation on earth. We pay for healthcare more than anyone else, okay? More than anyone else on the planet. And even then, we have to still continuously fundraise off of websites. Like, people need to resort to e-begging so they can pay the parts of the healthcare that they already paid for that the healthcare company refused to cover. It's insane. And no one in a position of power with any semblance of influence or any semblance of authority takes a deep breath and goes, honestly, we got to fix this. This is like insane. Part of that is because they're getting paid by these people. They're getting paid in the form of lobbying. They're getting paid in the form of nice trips. It's completely normalized. This cruelty is completely normalized. How did Brian justify taking $10 million a year for himself when a small portion of that money could have saved so many? I've met too many people smarter than me who earn less and dumber than me who earn more to believe that pay is purely related to merit. It's wrong the government killed the CEO. It's also wrong that the CEO hoarded personal wealth while he let others die. Let's start by cutting your salary. Being rewarded for bad behavior is sick. Just going to leave this here. My brief time inside a giant law firm, I saw the inner workings of major insurance like UHC, including actions that unequivocally cause the suffering of seriously ill policyholders and intentionally deny coverage for medically necessary care. I also saw good people, including my colleagues, defend the indefensible and become true believers in the value of their work and that of their healthcare industry clients. And those utilization management medical decisions, when not being auto-denied with AI, decisions are largely made by unqualified and barely licensed medical, in air quotes, professionals. Insurance departments are where the disciplined fired and otherwise unemployable go to finish their careers. Policies in general are often based on outdated literature and guidelines. Spectator, thank you for the 25 get this subs. Which insurance know very few patients have the time or expertise to challenge. This is, in many instances, a way, like the legal hurdles that you place upon the average American, the average person that doesn't have the money to be able to go into this legal battle or whatever, like that is a way to deny their coverage. Like that's the way that these guys make money, because they know most people they don't have time to go after their insurance claims, and they make the claim adjustment or the reclamation process costly and troublesome on purpose. And it doesn't end there. When I was a kid, my sister passed away from a rare genetic factor in leukemia. She had 2 successful bone marrow transplants, but her body at 13 couldn't continue to fight. We were destroyed, but then got a medical bill of over $1 million for procedures that insurance wouldn't pay. My dad and stepmom had to file medical bankruptcy twice. My family fell apart after that, and I don't talk to my father much after I left high school. It really destroyed a lot of my life. Everyone has a story like this. Virtually everyone has a story like this. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. So yeah, that's the reason why people are mad. That's the reason why people don't give a shit that a CEO got killed. Of course, this is why I describe the concept of social murder. The invisible murder that systems subjugate people to. The invisible murder that is done at the behest of the profit motive. It's normalized, it's systematized, it's streamlined. It's invisible. It's supposed to be that way. But it's not supposed to be that way. And especially when it happens to you, especially when it happens to a loved one, you see that pain. So it's no longer invisible. But it's so apparent that even the least educated, even the most ignorant person in society still recognizes who is responsible for it. And no amount of deflection and no amount of, well, think about how your fellow neighbors are actually the ones responsible for your anger and your resentment. Focus on trans people. Focus on undocumented immigrants. Like, focus on something else. Please, not us. Is going to change that reality. You can clutch your pearls about the ways in which people have received this information, but it won't change the reality. GoFundMe CEO, 1/3 of site's donations are to cover medical costs. That was in 2019. And it's so apparent that it's not working that even right-wingers who normally are very good at deflecting the attention away from the real vectors of pain, that are normally so good at making you hate your neighbor instead, even they are falling apart. Even they are completely incapable of making their audiences not be angry at the right people for once. Okay? And what have we done?
We turn.
What have we done in this process? Instead of addressing the problems, those in positions of power are either too predisposed with finger wagging at those who don't feel like Brian Thompson was a victim because they feel like they themselves are victims of for-profit healthcare. And also on top of that, now they're looking at your posts, they're looking at your anger, and they're moving to apprehend those to make a point. They're moving to apprehend those who say something in anger to make a point. If you're angry, you still have to shut the up. You can't say a single damn thing.